My name is Mike Bamberg. I've been using XC Soaring since 2007 or 2008, something like that, several generations ago. The software product shortly before that had been a commercial product, and it was released into open source in about 2004. And since that time, it's been managed, the development has been managed by a man named Max Kellerman. There have been a number of what are called forks, different versions of the software that have been driven out. We're going to be covering just XC Soaring, not LK8000, not any of the other ones. I'll try to point out a few differences as I go. I've tried most of them, but this is what I have used in the past. It's my backup software I keep in my glider. At this point, I have a LX9000 in my glider, and actually this tells me some things that it doesn't, so that's kind of cool. All right, so let's get started. At any time, please raise your hand. I'll stop and we'll answer questions. Starting out here, how many of you have ever tried XC Soaring in the past? Good, good, good. So, if you haven't downloaded the most recent version, it's 7.28.6 or something like that. It does have some refinements, and they continue to upgrade it, but it doesn't change significantly. And if you have an old profile that you've set up in the past, it will. You can still do it. So, okay, so let's get started here. This is kind of the agenda that I'm going to follow, and we'll try to make sure we get all of that, at least have you exposed to it. You may not be able to actually accomplish it. If you have an Android device with you today, you can go to the Play Store and download it. I brought a couple of them here that I can pass around and you can look at. This is a Samsung device that was one of the lower cost devices that was, put out and, get your low cost phone plan with us and we'll give you a phone. Well, this is one of those phones. So it's not a high-end phone, and right now because of the light, it's darkened down. Let me turn it up full bright. So there's full bright, and I'm going to bring up XC Soaring here, and that's how bright it is on this device. I went to a used phone store, asked them to give me a cell phone that couldn't hook up to the internet anymore, couldn't hook up to cellular anymore. I just wanted to use it as an small Android tablet, $80. I have been into shops, picked them up for $40. Because you're not going to need to spend a lot of money for the hardware. Yes? What's that?
$35 with shipping.
Is that the one from Walmart?
No, this is unclaimed baggage. They have lots of them.
Okay, and then that one is a Nexus 7, which happens to be, if you can find a Nexus 7 2013, Nexus 7 2013, and you see I know that because I used to own one of these. This one has kind of a textured back. The 2012 has one that looks kind of like a quilt. You don't want that one. You've got to have the 2013. 2013 is brighter, has a higher resolution, and a faster processor. So make sure if you're going to go out to eBay or someplace and try to get one of those, that's called a Nexus 7. And me and my buddy used to run that exclusively, but they're harder to come by. Sir? Yeah, and the M8 is brand new for $100. So, I don't want to talk about all the equipment. I just want to say that you can get fairly successful equipment. Now, I want to show you something here. There's another software package that I'm not talking about, but it's called AVAIR, A-V-A-R-E, AVAIR. And it is, you're downloading Seattle out of the sectional. This is a moving map display for airplanes, but it has sectional charts. So if I'm going somewhere and I want to see a sectional chart, I just go flip over to this app, and I've got a sectional chart, all kinds of good information. Now, granted, I'm an airplane pilot, have been for many years, and it's easy for me to read a sectional chart. Sometimes glider pilots, though they have been trained, they haven't necessarily become proficient. So, just saying. Okay, so what is XC Soar? This is what we call an eye chart. It's got a lot of stuff on it, but the thing to remember is it's free, and it's open source, which means it's developed by a committee who spend their spare time doing it. No one is commercially being paid, and you don't have to pay anything for it. The one thing I want to point out is there are two operating systems that you cannot install it on. You cannot install it on any Apple device. Now, if any of you have done software development, the reason for that is Apple makes it really hard to get into their ecosystem unless you're willing to, never mind, doesn't matter, it's hard to do. So not nobody, but XC Soar team doesn't have the resources to go meet that commitment that Apple requires. This used to run on things like iPacs and mobile PC type devices, Windows Mobile type of devices. That's no longer supported by the development team. There are some older versions, so if you have one of those devices that you really love, you can get an older version of the software that can be run. If you're using one of these Android devices, and especially, and I'm not trying to pick on anyone in particular, but the Samsung devices from about the Galaxy 4 forward have a gyro, a compass, and more importantly, a barometric pressure sensor. So you can actually get a good audio output, total energy compensated, but a real audio vario for getting home safely. So that's another great thing. Look for one, and there's a couple of apps on the Play Store where you can say sensor check or something like that. Download it and see what's going on. But the software itself does, in fact, detect if there's a baro available, and it will attempt to use it. Say again, Hans?
It goes into your hearing aids if your hearing aids...
If you've got it set up for that, that's right. You can link it to external devices. You can link it two different ways. You can send information out to some devices. More importantly, if you have something like an LXNav Vario that has the Bluetooth output, you can put the Bluetooth output directly into here and set up this device to read that as its air data. And so that's pretty good, sir.
I should say also as a FLAR connected.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This is a Microsoft Surface Duo Generation 1. And again, I can run, the nice thing about this one, okay, come on. I can run XC Soar on one side and Avair on the other. And this isn't full brightness either. But the point is that there's lots of things out there that can be used. I'm not trying to tell you how to do it, but I'm just trying to show you possibilities here. Most of the time, you're going to be using XC Soar on a touchscreen device, and that is really the way it's designed to be used, to be swiped, and all sorts of things. We're going to talk about gestures, and those gestures are, if you will, the shortcuts. It works pretty well. You can hook up other devices, especially if you're using something like a PC. Now, we're going to actually run the program on this PC because I couldn't get my PC to talk to the Android devices correctly. It's possible, but because of the way it has to be wireless and the way they're running wireless, I can't get it to work. This is important, this last item. It doesn't matter which flight computer you decide to use, being able to practice using it one way or another without actually having to try to fly an aircraft at the same time. Nice thing about a Condor, how many have you ever used Condor? Oh, wonderful. You hook this thing up to Condor, and there's on the Condor forum and on the XC Soar forum, there are explanations how to do that, how to make them connect. But then the cool thing about Condor is you hit the P key, you get flustered, you don't know quite what you're doing, you hit the P key on the keyboard and Condor pauses. You can figure out I want to see that page. Oh, and you hit the P again and keep flying. So that's one of the really advantages to using something like Condor to learn any simulator. Now I have, like I said, an LX9000 in my glider. In the wintertime, I take it out and I hook it up to Condor. If you didn't know that could be done, I can tell you some other time. Okay, so it's a fairly comprehensive system. Now, what I've got here is several examples of what your screen might look like. And going from left to right, this is a very simple display. We have, let me pull my pointer out. We have a final glide bar here. We have a speed to fly with a McCready value there. We have a destination, a distance, what your glide ratio is, and what your netto is. Now, is that all the data you can put there? The answer is no. This is just an example. Here's one that has 12 data points. Here's one that has 8 plus a vario. If you are using something like a Samsung device, this vario, again, uncompensated, but it's still giving you good vario data. You can have a side profile. If you look really carefully here, you can see a brown line that's kind of jagging around here like that. And this side of the line, which is where the glider is a little clearer than this side. This is called shading. Now, you can change a lot of things, but it's hard to get the shading to be really clear unless you do a couple of other things. But nevertheless, this line basically tells you how far you can reach with your glider's current, at the current McCready and at the glide ratio of the glider that you've got selected in the setup. Yes, sir?
Nothing, never mind.
Okay.
Discovery.
Yeah. So you can be quite complex. I mean, that looks a lot like some of the LX machines. Yeah. One of the things I will point out, you see this size box and this size box and that size box. You can't scale them and you can't color code them like you can in a UDI or in LX products. So just understand that it does have some visual limitations with regard to how you can set up your particular screen. So, very flexible. There are so many different ways that you can put an info box in. There are so many different pages. You can have up to, we're going to talk about pages more, 8? 9. You can have 9 different pages, including a FLARM page, displayed or available to you, and you can get to them by swiping left and right on your touch screen. That's, for most of us, too much information. And one of the disadvantages is whatever layout you choose for your page, it's going to be the same layout across all the pages. You can't individually change the layout of the page. You can change the content of the info boxes. So you can have multiple info boxes. You can have different profiles so that when you start up, it's going to say, what profile do you want to use? And I'm going to use Noel, or I'm going to use Mike, or whatever. So if you have one device that you're using on multiple airplanes, you can name one for one airplane or something like that. My recommendation is to start small with fewer info boxes, and then add them as you gain more experience, and you say to yourself, I want a piece of information for my decision-making process. Can I put it here? And the answer is almost always yes. But you have to, what I like to say when I'm talking about any of these machines, they have to support your decision process. Whatever way you make a decision, if it doesn't tell you something you need to know, or it tells you something you don't need to know, get rid of it. You know, put things in there that you can use, that you know how to use. That's what the flexibility provides. There is a mode called auto mode, which we're going to talk about, and that is a much easier way to get started. And really recommend that you don't put it on something, stick it on a ram mount or something like that in your cockpit, and then go up and try to learn how to use it. Just like any of the other ones, that's you want to have a way to practice. Now, I'm going to show you how to practice on your machine, because there is a simulator mode built into the flight computer that you can use with your tablet or with your PC. Take your time about what you think you need. If you're not sure you need it, don't put it in there. Okay, this is the XC Soar main page. And right now, this is the current version. I pulled this down last night. And here on the right, you can see there's a number of different operating systems. If you're going to be doing any kind of Android, you can use Google Play or another app store called F-Droid. And then if you have something like Knoll has, OpenVario QB based, it's a Linux based board, you can put it on that. If you built a Raspberry Pi up, you can put it on that. Most of the time, if you're just wanting to practice and you're not putting it on an Android device, you're going to just stick it on Windows. And when you click on that screen, it comes up like this. And you want to download this thing that says XC Soar. You want to download this only if you're trying to use IGC files that need to be validated. That's the only reason to download that. And that's also a PC-based machine. So you download that. It's a single file, just one file. Comes down really quickly. Now, depending on your download, your web browser, it may refuse to download an EXE file. That's just a safety factor. You may have to find someone that doesn't have that limitation and have them give it to you, because there's sometimes no way around that. Okay, the next thing you want to look at is we're going to go to download again, because we're going to talk about everything else besides the program. And Simon? No, your name, sir. Yes? Antonio, okay. Antonio's from Guatemala, and he had a question about whether he can use this in Guatemala. It's a worldwide program, and we're going to show you how to do that. But you have to download a map appropriate to the location that you're going to fly, and you have to enable the program to use that map. So we're going to look into that. Okay, so we're going to cover it on a PC first. And why am I going to do this?
So you can practice it all.
That's what I want you to do first. I don't care what you're going to put it on, but I want you to practice using it on a computer. Thank you, Cindy. You're a great straight man.
I'm the student on this. That's why I'm here.
Okay. So we've already seen where we download it from the xcsoar.org website, and it will run on any Windows version that you're likely to have on a modern computer. If you're back on Windows XP, maybe not. It still runs there, but I wouldn't go there. Okay, if you're going to install it onto Android devices, you go to the Play Store and you search for XC Soar. And when you do that, you're going to see a bunch of things that are related apps. One of them is going to be called Top Hat. One is called the XCE version. There's another one similar called LK8000. Back in 2010, Max Lyons and a guy named Paulo Coolwind decided to divert in their ways they wanted to do things, and they had a real tit for tat for quite a while. And finally, Max said, you do your thing, don't even talk to me. And so that's one out there too. It's designed, it has a very, very different interface, and it's a little more challenging to get accustomed to. It's also designed to have sound telling you things, and I find that a bit of a challenge in a windblown cockpit, so that's just my opinion. XC is supposed to be a simplified version. Top Hat is one that was developed for Nooks and Kobo machines. Those are e-ink machines. They will run, there are copies of them that will run on, I should say, a Top Hat will run on an Android or a PC. The problem is it's no longer developed. The man who did the fork and started it, it's a very close fork of the program, a very close companion to the program, using all the same basic material, but a slightly different interface. And a lot of people like it, and I understand that, but it's not current, and it's not being kept current, and so that I really don't want to recommend it. So what I recommend is that you use the stable, am I blocking people's view here? Use the stable version, which it'll come up as saying stable version, and the reason, among other things, is it's the version that's going to stay, continuing to be updated, and if you have someone in your club, most likely that's the one they may be more familiar with, and therefore if you're looking for help, that's the place to go. The e-ink devices that I mentioned, you know what I mean by an e-ink device? That's the readers, like a Kobo or a Nook or any of those. The wonderful thing about them, they are sunlight readable. It's the best display, no color, but the best display. But setting them up is not a simple matter of just downloading the program. They're not really designed quite this way. They will run it, you can set it up, but it takes a lot more work. As I mentioned, used Android phones, as the gentleman over there mentioned, cheap tablets. Earlier this week, someone mentioned that Walmart has a $49 tablet. Walk right up to Walmart and get a $49 tablet, it works just fine. I don't know that for sure, because in my mind, if it says works just fine, it has a GPS in it. I want the moving map to move. And some of the cheaper tablets don't have a GPS. For example, all of the all of the Amazon Fire tablets have no GPS. So you can't use them in the cockpit. Well, you can't use them without other input to give you the GPS input. Okay, now I'm leading up to how we go from having a program in place to having some other things in place. First of all, as I mentioned, the program is not all inclusive. Think about the things you want to know about. What do you want to know about when you're out flying? You want to know the map. Everybody wants the map. What else do you want? What? Waypoints. That's a good thing to have. What else? Airspace. Yes, thank you. Well, gosh, look at that. I have it up there. So all of those things need to be installed. It's a different way to install it on a PC than it is on a Android. There's an easy way and there's a more accurate way, as I like to put it. The easy way we're going to show you today, because for 99% of what you're going to do, it's probably okay, especially to get started. If you have the ability to do a connection between your PC and your Android device or your whatever you're going to use to run this, and you're familiar with transferring files back and forth between the two of them, you can get more accurate data into it faster. I'm going to show you the easy way, and I'm going to explain why it's not the most accurate. And then you can, as you get more familiarity with your machine, you can choose to make it more accurate. We've got to set up a glider, and then we have to set up what the screen looks like. Remember that picture I showed you with 3 different that was running the same program at the same time. In other words, I just said change the screen, and it made a change, and that's what I was showing. Okay. Now, We hit the download button, and it took us to this page. And over here, you'll see it says download maps, waypoints, airspace, or use our map generator. Why would you want to use the map generator? More accurate maps. You're going to see the maps they have available, which are not necessarily covering the area you want to fly. So you can add it manually. The new manual has a much, much better, I'm going to bring a copy up here in a moment, a much better explanation of a whole lot of stuff. I mean, one generation ago, the manual was pretty worthless, in my opinion. Okay, so we're going to talk about downloading maps. If you go to Maps page, I think that's the next one I've got here. Okay, no, what we need to do now is actually go on the internet. Now, you look at this and you say, okay, big deal, what's that? Well, you come down here where it says download maps and you click again, and it shows you all the maps that are currently available as a completed map, okay? Let's go ahead and zoom in. We'll bring this over here, and we'll zoom in a little bit there since Guatemala might have something that you're going to have to use the map generator, okay? I'll show you a little bit about that just because we have someone here that's going to need it. So you zoom in, and so I live in Oregon, right? Up here is Oregon. If I click on that one, it highlights, and I've got three different choices. I have a standard map, which is a lower resolution. I have a high resolution map, and I have one that says Altair. Altair was a commercial machine that you could put in your glider, kind of like an LX9000 type thing. And it's still supported by the team, but you can't buy one. So if you needed one for that, it's a special format. So the point is that we have this standard map and a high resolution. I recommend, especially if you end up with a slower machine, one that just seems to be sluggish, don't put the high resolution on. It's just more bits that the program has to shift around. Just use a standard. I recommend you start with the standard and see if it is going to do what you need. Now, one of the things I was talking about was, you see the Oregon one. Let's see, where's my pointer? Well, there it is. Oregon one goes like this. Well, Oregon goes like this. So there's an upper section of Oregon, which happens to be very close to where I fly regularly, that's not on the Oregon map. So being able to use the map generator is a nice capability. Now, everybody know about the Worldwide Turn Point Exchange? Anybody that doesn't know about the Worldwide Turn Point Exchange? Okay, it's a website that we're going to drop into it, and that's where you can pick them up. That's again, remember the hard way and the easy way? That's the hard way, because you have to be able to transfer it onto your device one way or another. The easy way is to just pick up what we're going to do here. But again, what's more accurate? The hard way. Okay, so waypoints, airspace, or the map generator. I'm going to touch in on the map generator really quick. So the map generator allows you to basically put your cursor down somewhere and go click. So you can define an area with this bounds like this, and from that, ask it to make you a map of a number of different resolutions. So this is, again, this is how to get one that is exactly what you want. You can, and it's reading data from a number of different geological survey databases to generate that. Okay, waypoints. Here we go to waypoints. Airspace. Here we go. So, no, that's the general one. It's not the one you want. Soaring web, there we are. Okay, this is a worldwide exchange, and you can go down here and choose North America. Go over here and choose, since we're in Nevada, we'll choose Nevada. And in Nevada, we'll choose Minden. And then we have all of these files formatted for downloading and importing into your program. You go there, and there are a number, these are all the same set of waypoints formatted for whatever kind of machine you want. This machine that we're talking about can use Cambridge or can use CU, which are two of the most common formats that you would see. This is also the site where you would pick up your airspace. So if we go to airspace, airspace is right at the top, and this comes out as a text file, and this one comes out as a different file. It doesn't matter. Either one of them contain the same set of special use airspaces, and you can, again, download them. Yes, sir, go. Stand by just a second. Let me kill this one. Okay, that was my wife. What?
For waypoints, it's cu.cup file format or Cambridge. For airspace, I believe it's Tim Newport Pierce or open air.
Yeah.
So just note that you can use CU waypoints, but you cannot use the CU airspace file.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so this worldwide, the name of this is the soaringweb.org, and you got turn points, you got to look at, you don't worry about what that is, just go to soaringweb.org, and that's where you're going to download a lot of this information. You just downloaded this to your computer, and you opened it up. What did it do? Without you knowing, it created a new folder in My Documents or Your Documents or whatever it's labeled in yours called XC Soaring Data. It's really important that you know that's there, because if you do decide that you do all of your planning and preparation on the PC and now you're going to put it onto an Android device, if you've done it all, you simply take that data and go plunk and drop it into your Android device. The first time you run the program on either an Android device or on a PC, it's going to create that folder, XC Data folder. And that's where all the information that needs to apply is going to be maintained. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go down here to SIM. And this is what you're going to see, because this is the default setup right here. And we've got these info boxes: the distance to the waypoint, the alternate, how much of a glide ratio we need, what our altitude is, what our height above the ground is, the waypoint altitude, what altitude you will arrive at the waypoint, what your current McCready value is, what your current ground speed is, and what your glide ratio average is. Those are a nice piece of information, right? Maybe. Okay, but what do we need to do first?
Tell it about your glider.
Even before telling about your glider, what did I have first on the list? A map. We don't have a map here. What's that?
Where are you?
Yeah, where am I? Okay, we're gonna jump back in here and we'll come back to the other. Okay. Wrong one. We're going to do all these things, but I want to talk about gestures, because you're going to see me doing gestures. Touchscreen, remember touchscreen? So you go down and up in one motion without picking your finger up, and you will go to the menu system. If you go down and to the left, you're going to open up the waypoint page. If you go down, right and then down, like the letter T or the letter L, the letter T is going to give you the task definition page. Now that's a little bit further down the way. You're probably not going to try this for a task quite yet. If you make the letter P, it puts it into panning mode, and you can move the image around, and then when you hit quit, it comes back to where you were. And you can zoom the display. So if you zoom up and zoom down, and you can page left and you can page right. All of those things are part of the gestures. Okay, so now we're going to go back to our XC Soar. So I'm going to make a gesture. What gesture am I going to make? I'm going to stroke down and stroke up. Okay, here we go. Come on, where's my cursor? Here we are. Okay, and you can see it on the screen. Stroke down. Whoops. Yeah, let's do that the hard way. We're going to stroke down and stroke up. I can do this with a mouse much better. And up pops a lot of things. This is where you want to go first. Config, right? So we hit config, and there's actually a number of configuration pages. This is the first one. This is where you're going to do all of the setup of the things that we've talked about setting up so far. You've got the system, you've got the plane, and you've got devices. We're not going to worry about devices, but that would be if you're feeding information into it from other devices, okay? Yeah. And guess what? It times out. Okay, you can also, if you have fingers small enough, you can also go in here. Come on, there you go. And you can get there. We're going to go into system, and then it won't complain. All right. Now, right now, expert mode is off. I recommend you leave it off until you've decided that you want to do a little more stuff. Most of what you need to do right away is going to be right here. Okay, so let's start with site files. It's looking for a map database. I've got Truckee in there, but that's because I copied it in there already. Into what directory? XC Soaring data, right. But I'm not going to pull that one up. I'm going to go down here where it says download. As long as you have internet access, either through cellular service or through Wi-Fi or whatever, when you tap that, it's going to bring up a list of all those maps that we just looked at on the screen. Remember those maps? So if I want to pull up California, first of all, I've got to go down to US. And there's California Truckee. And I can click on that. And it's now downloading it through the internet. And if you have a cellular service, that's what it's going to be doing. It's going to be downloading that.
So, Mike, what gesture gets you to the menu?
Down, up.
And then how did you get to that page?
How did I get to what page?
That page.
Config.
Oh, config. I think
Thank you all for helping to teach. Oh, yes.
system.
Okay. Like I said in the summary of the course, I said if you have a machine, bring it, because you can do all of this stuff while we're sitting here in the class. Okay. Now, what else do I want? Well, waypoints. Okay, let's go ahead and get waypoints first. So we get waypoints. Come down here to download. This is the easy way, right? This is the easy way. Not the most accurate, but it's easy. So now we go, okay, where do I want to go for that? Well, it's probably going to be a US. Let's see. US Cup. Well, how many waypoints is that? A lot. Not only a lot, but maybe not the ones that you have. It may not include all the ones you're accustomed to having in your area. And that's why it's better to go to Worldwide Soaring Exchange, download that one specifically, put it in your XC Soar data, and reference that. That's just going to give you more accurate information. Okay, the last thing we're going to get to is the airspace. And what are we going to do? We're going to download that and slide down our little slider here to where we can see US, and there's just one, and it's the open air, but that doesn't matter. We don't care. Either one of them, any of them will work. Hit that. It's usually pretty quick. Boom, it's done already. The last thing is if you have a FLARM device and you're receiving FLARM data, if you have a FLARM and you have some kind of FLARM display, the advantage of it is you can identify who's around you if they have registered their airplane. And so that's called an FLN file, and or a data file, depending on the format. But you can go down here to download again and take the data.fln and click on that, and I don't know if that's worldwide at that point or whether that's localized. Again, more accurate, right? The FLN file, I think, is worldwide. I don't think there's any regional information there. Okay, we now have the first four things we said we needed. We have the program, we have a map, we have a waypoint file, and we have airspace. And we're going to close this and close it all together. And it's loading the terrain file, and bingo, bango, bongo, there we are. Now, where are we? Yeah, we're right there. But what this location is, when you do, again, remember, accurate and not accurate? When you do this, it's going to center you in the area that you've downloaded. It's going to put it in the center of the area. It is possible for you to go back and establish a home position, and it will initially start you there. Okay?
It does this when you're in sim mode, but it's not using your live GPS position. If you use this in the cockpit, you go to fly mode, it's going to automatically center the map based on GPS.
And if you don't have a map there, it's going to be all white. Yeah, so if you suddenly turn, here we are working in Reno, and then we go home somewhere, and we downloaded the Reno map because we want to walk outside after this and see it on the map, right? So we're going to, you're going to go somewhere, and you're going to turn it up. It's going to go, wait a minute, I put a map in there. Yeah, but you put a map in for Reno, okay, or Nevada, or wherever. Okay, now, this is in, what mode is the program in right now? Sim mode. Okay, so now we're going to start flying. Okay, you want to fly? Here we go. Now, we have not yet talked about devices or gliders. Don't worry about it right now. We'll get back to that. What I want to show you is, wherever we are right now, it's actually 7,400 feet, more or less. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and hold, and I'm going to stroke in a particular direction and let go. Come on, you're supposed to do this. It is supposed to do this. I've done it many times before. Click, stroke. There you go. Okay, and the longer the stroke is, the faster it's flying, all right? Now, what can you say about this display? It says we've taken off, but what if you looked at this display, how would you want to change it?
Where am I going?
Well, where you're going right now is you're flying that direction. Yeah, so this is what's called north up, and if we switch it to track up, it puts the glider in the middle, and everything's moving past you, which is, some people like the north up, some people like the track up. I'm not trying to make any judgment with regard to that. I'm just saying you have those two choices. Okay, now I want to show you something else. This is a simulator. Tap, tap. Whoops. Not what I wanted. Tap, tap and hold. There we go. Okay, so our current elevation is 74. I'm going to go down here where it says 100. This is only available in your sim mode. Do not try this in the airplane. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, what do you see happening out there? You're getting yourself an amoeba. You're getting, come on, go away. You see, there's the glide amoeba we talked about. So based on the current MacCready, and based on whatever the glider is in here, I have no idea what it is. We'll go change it in a minute. This is the glide. This is the place where you'll hit the ground. Oh boy. But it gives me the chance to show you how the simulator can be worked. Two things you need to do. You need to touch the glider, stroke in the direction you want to fly, and then you have to go up to whatever altimeter you've got set, whether it be GPS or actual, and tap on it, tap and hold it, and then it will let you increase your altitude, and now you can see motion and altitude changing as you go. All right? Okay. We're not going to worry. We're going to go back now. We're going to fix a couple things. Stroke, stroke. Config. Let's find out what kind of plane we've got here, and then we'll go back and work on the display. New plane. Okay, so registration, November 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Competition ID is X-ray Oscar. I would never choose X-ray Oscar. It's got too many syllables. And now the polar. Well, if we click on this bar right here, it's going to bring up, we can put in the name and it'll search, or we can simply bring up a list. Someone was asking me on the LX9000 today whether or not standard Jantar version 3 is available. So that's an SZD. Here it is. We'll go ahead and use one. So we select that, and we now have all the information about the best speed to fly, and everything else has been put in there. We don't need to worry about it. It's asking how fast we dump water. You know, we're sports pilots, we don't carry water. Okay, and we hit OK, and we hit OK. And now we have an XCP file, an XCP file. Now, that's not important. You don't need to worry about it. But if you have multiple airplanes, you're going to do this for each airplane that you want to carry this device and put it into. You just have to remember that the first thing you do when you climb in there is pull up devices. We're going to show you how to do that. And you're going to select the device for the XCP for the glider you're flying in today. All right? So we have a glider. We close that. And now we need to look at what devices we are using. So we're going to stroke down, stroke up. Going to go down here to config. So we've got system, we've got plane. Now we're going to look at devices. Now, we're in sim mode. There are no devices. And if I was on the PC, there would still be no devices. I have to get into it. I have to have it on a piece of equipment that actually has devices. So I'm going to bring up the Android. And this is where all of the... I spent most of the week trying to get through what I was going to do before because I couldn't use the Wi-Fi. Anyway, never mind. You guys don't need to know that. This would have been a little better if I could have hooked up, but I couldn't. Okay. All right, so here's XC Soaring. I'm just going to point out something here. I'm going to put it in fly mode, and it's waiting for a fix. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and do my config devices. And up here, it says built-in GPS and sensors. That's what yours should say, built-in GPS and sensors. If it doesn't say GPS, that's probably not the machine you want to use because it's not going to have a moving map. Sensors depends upon what sensors the device has. Now, this is a Samsung. It probably has a barometric pressure. It also probably has a accelerometer and gyros, so that it'll automatically switch positions. But those are not reliable. You don't want to do attitude instrument flying with the gyros that are in your phone. But in terms of the GPS and the other sensors like the barometric, that's what you want to choose. Okay. Now, you can have multiple devices in any one profile. And what I mean by that is, remember I said that you might want to use, come on, turn off. There we go. Yeah. Too many buttons. I said you might want to use Condor. So it would be possible to have, let's say, a built-in device. Let's suppose I was hooking this up to my glider with a Bluetooth. So I'd have a Bluetooth connection, I would have a built-in sensors connection, and I could have a Condor connection. And it's going to try to do that in the order I have put them in there. So if it has built-in sensor, if it has a input from something like a LX S80, that's what it's going to use. If it has the input, if it doesn't have that input, it's going to convert over to the built-in. If it doesn't have those, it's going to go to Condor. You can also change the order of those at will and disable one and leave it still available but disabled, so that you can individually choose where you want to be receiving your data. So maps, turn points, and airspace. You guys got that? Easy way, hard way. Set up gliders. Got that? Yeah, we talked about setting up gliders. Now we're going to start talking about what your user interface, the way you want to see the machine giving you information. And we're going to do a fairly easy setup. In fact, we're not going to change the basic setup much at all. So let's go and partition the screen if we want to. Let's see, where do I want to go? I want to go to that. Okay, so stroke down, stroke up, go to config, go to system, let's go to look, and screen layout. And so what we've got on it right now is an 8 split. That means half of it's on the top, half of it's on the bottom. And the dialogue that we get is all text. Now I'm going to give you something else to play with here for just a moment. Let's see, I don't know if this one has, yeah. So there's many more options available. We can describe how we can color the info boxes, but all of them, not one at a time. And we can change a bunch of other stuff. The bottom 4, you don't need it most of the time anyway. You can ignore it, so it's okay to stay out of expert mode here. Okay, so that's the shape. Now let me show you what you could do. Those are the options. So I would recommend an 8 split or a 4 bottom or right, depending on whether you're using landscape or portrait. And that's because that's the smallest number that I find useful. I don't find 4 only useful. The one here, 4 left or top, or right or bottom, I don't find only having 4 useful to me. So when we finish today, hopefully, I will show you how I would set it up. We're very close to that anyway. How I would set it up so that it gives me information to support my decision process. But just remember, that's me. So I'm going to use 8. Come on, where was it? 8 bottom or right, and I'm going to select that. Okay, the next thing it wants to know is, what do you want to be showing on the page? Now you look at that and you say, well, there's only 2 pages. One page has nothing but a map. And the other page has map and some info boxes. Okay, which info boxes does it have? Auto. What it's going to do is you're going to tell it, when you start the thermal, show me the info boxes for thermal. When you start to cruise, show me the info boxes for cruise. When you've reached your final glide altitude, show me the info boxes for final glide. So it's going to switch those boxes depending on the phase of flight that it detects you're in. Now, personally, that's not the way I like to do it, because I like to choose what page I'm looking at. But with you as a beginner, first time you try to use it, don't mess with that stuff. Just let it go auto for you, except the next page. Okay, notice you can have a map, you can have info boxes, and you can have a bottom area. Remember that one very complex one I showed you that showed the profile view on the bottom? You can put that on there if you want to. Okay, the next page is perhaps, yes, sir?
Sorry, can you go back one real quick?
Sure.
Just, I think by the
Yeah.
So right now, there are only 2 pages listed, but if you wanted to have a bunch of different pages for a bunch of different types of flying, you could add those in and customize each one. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah, so what I do is I take this first one and I modify it and make it so that it's not automatic. And you can move these around. Let's see here. Down here on the bottom where the arrow is, you can move something down. You can change the order by dropping things down through it. And if you got something in there you don't really want, you just touch it and say delete, and that page goes away. So it's not that hard to make changes, okay? All right, now you look at this and you say, okay, what is that telling me? Remember we have auto. So these are the 3 phases of flight that the automatic info box is going to switch between. And if it detects your circling, it's going to give you the circling data. Now let's go up here and look at this. All right. So because it was originally set up for 8 split, that's what it's going to show us. I would have to restart it for it to show the bottom. But what you see across the top are the same info boxes we were looking at earlier. Okay. Now what I want to do, and I don't want to drive you crazy here doing this, but I'm going to click on that box. Actually, I'm going to click on, it's the content. This is the content. I click on that, and I want you to look at, these are all of the pieces of information that you could put into any info box. I mean, there's 80-something of them. And doing it this way is the hard way, but the accurate way, or most of the time. And we're going to hit cancel. I'm going to show you the easy way, but I'm going to drop out and come back into the program with the layout that we just defined. There we go. Now we have the 8 on the bottom, right? So right now it's in cruise mode. Well, it's in simulator mode, but it's in cruise mode because we're not circling. All right? Now, this is where we diverge from being able to use the simulator and being able to use something like Condor or actually flying. Because I'm going to show you the fast way to make changes. But for example, I can only reach 1 page right now in the sim mode here because it's not circling and I can't make it circle. But if you're in flight and you want to say, oh, you know, I would like to have something else in that spot. This height above the ground, not quite as important to me. I can look down and see if I get sweaty feet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my finger on that, and it pops up this. It does this in simulator mode or in actual flight mode. And I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to say, oh, that was the wrong one. Set up. There we go. Switch info box. So now it brings me up this page, and I say, okay, I really don't want to know the height. I want to know what my average time for the last hour is. Speed on the task, ground speed. Let's just put ground speed in there. So I select ground speed, quit it. And now I've got the ground speed value down here. And so, you know, if you say, gosh, you know, I want to change this, you don't have to go out to config. You don't have to do anything. You just simply have to touch and hold the info box you want to change. And then pull what you want to change it to out of the list. Now, I've got to do one quick thing here to hopefully ease your mind a little bit. So this is the new manual, and it's really quite good. And not only is it pretty good, but it actually has an indexed, well, except I'm moving too fast. It has an indexed table of contents. Info box reference, yeah, 132. So if we hit on this, 132, and we can bring up all of those info boxes are in these pages very well described. Now, I'm going to show you that the info boxes are also very well described within the program, but this is where I would go to sit down and, when you're just trying to set it up, say, okay, what does that mean? It just says whatever it says, glide ratio. There's like 5 different glide ratios you can calculate. The glide ratio required to finish a task, the glide ratio since the time you left the last thermal, the glide ratio over the last 30, 60, or 90 seconds. There's a number of different glide ratio values that you can choose to use. Okay. But like I say, this is the way they've got this. I mean, this is pages, right? We went from 132 to 141. That's how many pages of data regarding info boxes. And again, it's far better than it used to be. Okay, now, we've been talking. What's our glider been doing? It's been flying. You see, that's still moving. We took off back over there, and that's the waypoint it's thinking of going to. It's now telling us how far we are away from the takeoff point. That's what that big arrow is pointing us to. So until you tell it something else, that's what it's going to do. All right? We can go and touch on, okay, what was we got to go L, I think it is. Come on. That's the waypoint. Now, I thought we put waypoints on here. Did we not? No, we didn't. Hang on a second. We talked about them, but we didn't put them on. Yeah, we're using all of those. Oh, okay, never mind. I thought I had Chucky there. All right, well, we're running out of time, but this should get you a little bit along the way. A lot of stuff you can play with without ever having it in a glider. So we'll do this one really quick. Well, no, we can't because we don't have any waypoints in here. Okay, but what you could do normally, we talked about having so that's the waypoint list. You would simply choose a waypoint, and it would say, okay, this is the name of the waypoint, this is how far away it is, and then down at the bottom, it would show you, one of the choices would be select, and the other, one of the choices would be show more data, or fly to that, go to. So there's a go to button there that automatically makes that the target. So thank you all for coming. Hope you enjoy it.